Welcome to Bleed Purple, a 10-part podcast about the 125-year history of Tarleton State University. Host Drew Myers will cover Tarleton's rich traditions, speak with notable alumni, and uncover the stories that give Tarleton its lasting legacy. Here's your host, Drew Myers.
Howdy. Welcome to this episode of Bleed Purple, the podcast that's telling the story of Tarleton State University through the stories of the people who bleed purple. I'm your host, Drew Myers. It's my honor and privilege to sit down with Donna Strohmeyer. She is the Executive Director of Scheduling and Event Services, and Dr. Credence Baker, Vice President of University Strategy and Chief of Staff. You guys have the longest titles at Tarleton State University. Thanks for doing this, ladies. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start here. Credence Baker, what do you have in front of you? I see a name tag and a student ID. Are those yours from when you went to school here?
Yes, this is my name badge from Tarleton State University in 1999, complete with a full Social Security number.
Perfect.
Which is, I didn't realize until Stro pointed it out to me. And then I also have my name badge from when I worked in the housing department for Donna's husband, Carrie, back in 2000. So I thought those would be neat relics to bring to the conversation.
Relics, that is funny. I'm excited to visit with you guys because, Dr. Baker, I know without a doubt you bleed purple. Donna, I don't know you that well, but I've heard through the grapevine you bleed purple.
Totally bleeds purple, yes.
So I'm excited to tap into that, and that's where I want to start. We're going to talk about the 125 committee, and we're going to talk about this podcast and how that was part of the vision and the mission of what you guys are trying to accomplish with the 125 committee. But I want to start with this. Donna Strohmeyer, what do you love about Tarleton State University?
Well, I don't know that this podcast will be long enough to cover all the things I love about Tarleton, but I think not just for myself, but for so many students that have come through here, it's just been a game changer. I mean, you have a trajectory in life, and then you think, this is what I'm going to be, and this is what I'm going to do with my life. And then you come to Tarleton, and there's so many other opportunities that present themselves. And then, so your path is not so straight. Your path is kind of meandering, and you find things out about yourself, and you find things out about the world that you didn't know, and then you don't exactly end up where you thought you would be, but the place you end up is so much better.
Oh, I like that. Now, you grew up in Cleburne. What other schools were you considering, and why did you choose Tarleton?
Of course, Texas A&M. I mean, everybody from Cleburne at that time, way back in the 1980s, was considering Texas A&M. And actually, my husband, not husband at the time, longtime boyfriend at the time, he came to Tarleton the year before I did. He's a year older than I am. And I came down to visit a couple of times, and I thought, well, this is kind of a cool place. So I thought, well, you know what? I'll give it 2 years here, and then I'm going to transfer to A&M. And I think a lot of students feel that way, or did at the time, felt like, we'll go ahead and give Tarleton a try, but then we're going to go somewhere else. And, within the first week, I'm
never leaving.
You're never leaving. I mean, it is your place. It becomes your place, and it became my place very quickly. And so that's how 35 years later, here I still am.
I love it. All right, Dr. Baker, let's turn it over to you. I'm familiar with your story, and I think it's an inspiring story because going to college wasn't always a guarantee for you. It wasn't even on your radar growing up until you met your now husband, Paul Baker.
Same story as Stro, it sounds like, yeah.
And you guys had conversations around the dinner table with his family that kind of planted that seed. So tell that story, and then how you ended up at Tarleton. And one of the things I want you to tell, because I know the story, is your first introduction to this school.
Well, my very first introduction to the school actually was when I was in about 6th grade or so. I had a piano camp here, which not a lot of people know. We used to have piano camps or music camps through Cross Timbers. But that was my very first experience over in the Clyde Wells Fine Arts Center, getting to play the most beautiful grandbaby piano that I'd ever heard in my life. And so, that was my first sort of experience even being on a college campus. But again, in my family, college really that's not what my family did. And so whenever I met Paul, of course, that was it wasn't if you're going to college, it's where are you going to college? And so, he came to Tarleton, and much like Stro, I followed my high school sweetheart here, and the rest is history.
So did you fall in love with it the first week also, or did it take a little bit longer than that? Do you remember the moment when you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah, I did actually. Same as Stro. I think you quickly form bonds and friends, but I struggled as a first gen student. I struggled, didn't know you could drop a class, didn't know how to register for class, didn't know how to get my ID card with my social security number put on it. But so I had to kind of navigate that a little bit differently than Paul had. His parents both went to college, and so yeah, I had a little bit of struggle in the first semester, but yeah, you make a lot of friends. There's a lot of traditions to plug into, a lot of caring faculty that are there to help you along the way, and somehow you make your path through it and come out better on the other side.
Tell people the book or the pamphlet you had. What was it? It's like How to Make Straight A's in College or something?
I had a goal to make straight A's in college, and I met my goal actually. But I had a pamphlet called The Ridiculously Easy Guide to Making Straight A's in College. And it was pretty straightforward advice. It was go talk to your professor after class, ask for help, go to tutoring resources, those kinds of things. But I felt like I needed that extra little pamphlet just to tell me as a first-gen student who'd never navigated college how to make good grades. And so, yeah.
You have a heart for first-gen students, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
And that the university has a heart for first-generation students
Yep.
also. Dr.
Yep.
Hurley's first-gen
Yep.
as well. Talk about that and the emphasis that the university has put on those students and what they need, because you know firsthand coming to school for the first time.
Yeah, I think all of our students, whether they're first gen or legacy, have such grit. They're hardworking. They too want to make good grades. They want to find their path in life. And what was really neat for me getting to help shape the strategic plan that we're in now, Tarleton Forward 2030, is that focus on the student experience. And we really took a look at how do we lower barriers for students. And I thought about my own barriers, that not knowing how to register, that something simple as that can really hinder a student's progress in their degree. So we took a hard look at that student experience and how do we make it the most, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be bumps in the road, but how do we make it to where they can navigate that pathway? And yeah, there's definitely, that comes from my own experiences.
All right, let's bring it back to you guys. I want to know how you guys met. Because what I've heard through the grapevine is you guys have a lot of good stories. You guys have a history, right? Stro, tell me how you and Credence Hatley at the time, is that when you guys met?
Yeah, Credence Hatley.
Credence Hatley met all these years ago.
Well, before I even really met Credence, I knew of Credence because she worked for my husband, Carrie, over in housing. And so I remember he came home one day and we were just kind of just wrapping up our day. And he said, yeah, I have a new student worker. And I said, oh, really? He goes, yeah, her name's Credence. I said, Credence? And he goes, yeah. I said, are mom and dad hippies? He goes,
Yeah.
I don't know, but probably so. Yeah. And I said, like Clearwater Revival? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, well, that's going to be an easy name to remember. I said, yeah, it is. And so it was probably months before we really ever interacted with each other. But my husband always spoke very highly of Credence. I mean, she's just hardworking and dedicated and, all in. When you're in a project with Credence or you're working with Credence or you're friends with Credence, she's all in. And so, just over the years, she became a faculty member here and we worked on some projects together and our paths just kind of continued to intertwine. And I enjoy working with Credence. I think we're compatible on projects and we kind of approach things in the same way. And so I was very honored and excited when she asked if I would share the 125 committee with her because I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And I knew it would get done because Credence, when she's at the helm, it's going to get done.
I love it. And we're going to talk about the 125 committee in just a minute. So Credence went to school here and then decided to stay and work at Tarleton. Tell that story and how that came to be. And then like your memories of Donna as you started to
she doesn't even remember. I remember her. She doesn't remember me, but I wrote for the JTAC. I think it was my freshman year. It might have been sophomore year, but we had a Saturday workshop. And so they had all of us drive in and I think it was to kind of just tell us this is the policies, kind of more of a training. But I remember vividly Stro standing up and very sternly like telling us what the rules were and how it's going to be. And I just remember thinking, man, she means business. Like, and that's just Stro. If you know Stro, she is down to business, but she still cares about you. So you know that she's serious, but you also know that she cares about you, and something I really appreciate about her. But yeah, I wrote for the JTAC. I had a lot of great experiences here. A lot of people impacted my path and sort of the turns and twists in my path. And one of those people was Kathy Horrock Smith. And she actually, she had a grant through Texas A&M. And so I partnered with her to help her with her online website. And this was back when, like, you hit a button and there was this weird noise to, like, push something to the internet. But she actually taught me a lot about instructional design. And so that's actually what I ended up doing as a career field, was instructional design, because of her. So, yeah.
There was a chance that you were going to go a different direction, though, right?
Yeah, I actually was certified. My degree was in business, but I was certified to teach like business and computer programming and stuff like that. So I thought I was going to teach high school, and then I did my clinical teaching, and I realized quickly I'm not teaching high school. But really, I had already had the experience with instructional design, and that basically led into Tarleton happened to have a master's program with a concentration in instructional design, and yeah, that path just opened right up. So
see, it doesn't help that I know Dr. Baker's story. I know it all. I know that she had a job offer on the table and they were driving from the Fort Worth area, right, Credence?
Yes,
Correct me if I'm wrong. And Paul, again, steps in and kind of changes the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're chief of staff here at Tarleton.
Well,
so
it
just
did
tell
change.
that story just real quick.
Interestingly, he had a professor too that impacted his life. So Dr. Sundar was his mentor and faculty member. And Dr. Sundar had told him, y'all need to she needs to stay and get her master's. And so it was really just sort of his mentor telling him that I should stay, we should stay in the area and get my master's. And then the program opened up, and then just as God would have it, so did assistantship over in the Center for Instructional Technology and Distributed Education. And so there was the perfect opportunity for me to practice what I was learning. So yeah, I don't take that for granted. That was definitely the path that God had for me.
Donna, Credence has said a couple times just the people that impacted her kind of journey. That's what makes Tarleton special, right? I mean, it's special for a lot of different reasons, but it's the people that really differentiates it from other universities. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, it is 100% the people, the relationships, the experiences that you share. I had a faculty member, Dr. B.R. Kirkland, who was a real mentor to me. He was tough. He was a former
management professor.
I
had him for management.
Yes. And I mean, he ran it like you were a Marine. And I don't know, I gravitated to that. And maybe that was what I was exuding that day I was at the JTAC, helping those students understand how serious their jobs were. But, there were just a lot of faculty that poured into me and encouraged me and just were very clear. You can do it. Whatever it is you want to do and want to be, you can do that, And I too was a first gen student. They didn't call it that way back in the 80s. You just went to school, but neither one of my parents attended college. And so, I was fortunate to have someone here a year before me because my husband knew how to register and all of those things. But that's what was so great about it, because your peers would help you. They wanted you to be successful. The faculty and staff, much like today. I mean, it's the same place. We're just bigger and broader and more out there than we were. We truly were a little secret place, I believe, when I first started to school here. 3,500 students. We didn't have anything north of Vanderbilt Street. I mean, it was a very, very small campus. We only had 4 residence halls. Called them dorms back then. We didn't even know what the term residence hall meant. It was just a very quiet, special, secret place where you were really learning to grow up and be who you were going to be.
It's not a secret anymore. Don, I want to stay with you. I want one good story from when you were going to school, whether it was undergrad or graduate school, just one good, maybe it's a funny story, maybe it's an outlandish story, maybe it's an inspiring story, just something to just capture the essence of what it was like to go to school at Tarleton.
I'm going to tell the haunted house story.
You
I'm not
should.
going to
It's a
use
funny
I'm
one.
not going to use names, and we're going to protect the innocent. But when I very first started to work here, which has been 35 years ago this year, and we would do a haunted house. It was in the basement of the Tarleton Center. And what was so wonderful about that is it involved students from our programming board, students from the theater department. We had an incredible instructor, Dr. Mary Jane Mingus, who was one of the most talented individuals I have ever met in my life. And she would bring the theater students over, and we would bring the programming students together, and we would work on costumes and scripts, and we would build this haunted house that there's no way with liability wise now it would ever be able to be done on the campus. And so we had a young man who was actually the student body president at the time. His father was a faculty member here, and he so wanted to be Freddy Krueger in that haunted house. And Dr. Mingus was like, I don't know. I don't think you've got what it takes to do that. And he goes, but I really, really want to do it. So one night she gave him that opportunity, which it's so wonderful that we could give students the opportunity to be outside their box, and outside their comfort zone. And so the very last room we had in the haunted house was called the spinning box. And it was this giant box. It was painted black and white, and it had a strobe light in the top. And so at the very end, we would run the group of students in there, and we would spin the box around, and then we would open the door, and they would come out on the other side. So Freddy Krueger was ready, and he was playing the part. So we had this group of young women, about 6 or 7 of them, and they were really scared. And I mean, there was lots of screaming and all these things going on. And they ran into the spinning box, and this young man, he was so excited he was playing the role, he ran right in there with them. Well, we spun that box around, and there was a lot of screaming and yelling. And I think most of that was Freddy Krueger really screaming and yelling than the young ladies. And when we opened that box up, he's laid out on the floor. And he goes, I don't know, Dr. Mingus, maybe I'm not cut out for this. This is a really hard gig, and everybody just really enjoyed that. And, Dr. Mingus was like, no, I think you've got what it takes. I think you've got what it takes, and even when I see him today, we will reminisce and talk about that, and that was such a small piece of his experience at Tarleton, but it was just so profound because he was given an opportunity to do something that he didn't think he would be able to do, but he really wanted to. And other people encouraged him and said, no, I think you're cut out to do that. And so, he's gone on to have a very successful career. But just those types of experiences where students were so engaged with one another, and it was so much fun. And, I don't want faculty to take this wrong. Most of the memories people have are not of the classroom. They are the things that go on outside the classroom, the experiences you have, the people you have them with, the skill sets that you build, and the memories that you make all these many years later. That's really what you hold on to.
I love that story. And at this point of the podcast, I'd like to say this. Donna has never listened to a podcast, and obviously she's never been on a podcast, but that was very well said.
Awesome,
a poignant story. You tied it back in. You're a pro, girl. Let's talk about the 125 committee. I know that's near and dear to both of your hearts. Talk about that, the mission, the vision of the 125, and how it's gone. We're coming towards the end of that, and this podcast is kind of tying a nice red ribbon around it all. Dr. Baker, just talk about the 125 committee and working with Stroh through all this.
Yeah, well, it's been such a special experience, I would say, a nostalgic experience. The people that were selected for the committee were picked for a purpose. They either were part of our 100th anniversary, which I have a little memento here from 1999 when I was a freshman. I remember this celebration. Stroh was part of this planning committee, so this is not her first rodeo. But everyone that was on this committee has a tie to Tarleton. They love Tarleton. They planned just some really incredible things throughout the year to commemorate our 125th. And that was the thing. Stroh and I, when we had our first meeting with them, just talked about how we have to honor our rich traditions. We have to pay tribute to everyone who came before us. Like, we can't let them down. So, no pressure, but we wanted to get it right. And it's been really neat to be part of it.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to look back, when we did our 100 year and how there were some similarities in some of the things that we did, but just the growth that has taken place, from the 100 to the 125. It's just incredible how different Tarleton's image is now. We are still that small, special little place, but so many more people know about us now. And so just the level at which we've touched other people at 125 that we couldn't or didn't at 100 has been pretty incredible.
What was the number one, without a doubt, if nothing else is accomplished through the 125 committee, what was the thing that you guys really wanted to put an emphasis on? Was there one thing? I mean, I know there was a lot of things, but the one thing we cannot miss on this.
I think, and I'll let you speak for yourself. I think for me, if you experienced any of our events or listened to this podcast or heard a story, if you had a feeling of nostalgia, then we did our job. Everything that we did was to honor those that came before us and to get folks excited about what's coming for the future. And so if we did that, then I think we accomplished our goal. And we had to have fun too, right? If we didn't have fun as a committee, it wouldn't have been any fun, but we accomplished that for sure.
Yeah, I agree with Credence. If you can make someone think about why Tarleton was special to them through something that we're doing, and we really did focus on that. It was to celebrate who we are and who Tarleton is, and when you do that, you think about all those haunted houses and concerts and all the things and your friends that you still have and gather with today. That's really what we wanted to accomplish. Celebrate that past and then get ready for the next 125.
And obviously I'm biased because I host this podcast, but this podcast is a testament to that, right?
Yeah.
Really tapping into that nostalgia, but also we're looking ahead.
Yep.
Credence, why was it important to do the Bleed Purple podcast?
I think to capture some of the stories that you've heard today, that you've heard on prior podcasts, I think capturing that nostalgia so that it lives on, I think is why we wanted to do the podcast.
Donna, what about you? For somebody that had never listened to a podcast, why did you get behind this?
Now I will, now that I know what they're all about. For me, it's the history. I am so proud of Tarleton's history, and there have been so many incredible people who make up our history, and to know their stories, to know the LV Risinger story of the bonfire, to know some of Doc Blanchard's stories when he was a faculty member here, it's all of those experiences and stories that make us who we are today. And I'm just excited to know that there's a place now that there's these podcasts that you can capture some of those stories in that person's words, in that person's voice, that 50 years from now, 100 years from now, students can go back and listen and say, oh, that's what it was like then. There was nothing north of Vanderbilt Street. Students here today don't even know what Vanderbilt Street is because now it's Rudder Way, but just a place where we can capture that history and have it in that person's words is incredible.
I'll share this with you guys real quick to insert myself in the narrative. I do community podcasts in different communities across the region. And I was sitting down with somebody in Bonham, Texas. We were at the Sam Rayburn house. And she kept saying, we're interviewed just like this. And she kept saying oral history, oral history, oral history. And I said, that's exactly what we're doing with these podcasts. We're capturing the oral history of, in this case, Tarleton State University. And that's what I love about it. I think it's fantastic. And I'm a huge fan of story. I love stories, from the haunted house story to the Paul Baker dining room table story. All of those stories I just really love. So the last question that I have for each of you is, what does Bleed Purple mean to you? Dr. Baker, we'll start with you.
So for me, since Tarleton changed my life so much, and I get to pay that forward to students, I think Bleeding Purple means I can honor traditions that I remember when I was a student, but I can also embrace some of these, the new students that bring in these new traditions. I don't know if you've heard the color song, that's new. That actually is only a few years old, and it warms my heart just because it's not changing the tradition so much that it's different, but it's them making their own spin on it. So to see our students succeed is what Bleeding Purple means to me.
What's your favorite tradition from way back when?
Oh, purple pancakes, hands down. Yeah.
She didn't even stutter.
She didn't.
She knew.
Yeah,
She didn't.
that's a thing. That goes way, way back.
Yeah, I would say bleed purple to me means it's similar to what Credence has said, that there's this thread that runs through Tarleton. So whether you were here in the 60s or 70s or 80s or today, we all share some of that thread, be that bonfire, be that purple pancakes, which used to be midnight breakfast, for the older crowd.
We
They're
must have
talking.
changed that.
That's right. We've changed the name of that. But that thread is what binds all of us together. But yet, when we're on that thread, we are creating what Tarleton is today, the new traditions or what is important to students now. But even someone, that was here all these many years ago, I still have in common with students today. We did the drum beating and homecoming. We ate the pancakes. We did those things. It looked different. It might have felt a little different, but it's all still the same. So that thread of bleed purple runs pretty deep.
We kicked off this podcast by asking Donna what she loved about this university. And I want to close it down by asking you the same question, Credence Baker, because I know your heart for this school. I told, I don't even remember, whoever would listen out of the gate, I said, the people that I know bleed purple more than anybody, Dwayne Burns, and he was one of our first guests, and Credence Baker. I don't know
Dwayne Burns
that many people.
A lot of
serious purple. And Donna, you're now in that category. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I want to close down this episode by Dr. Baker giving you the opportunity just to really emphasize what you love about this school that you said, your words, changed your life.
It's hands down the people. It is the people, and it is their purpose to change others' lives. And yeah, I want to do the same for others.
I love it. Ladies, thank you so much for doing this. Again, sitting down with Donna Strohmeyer. She is the Executive Director of Scheduling and Event Services, and Dr. Credence Baker, Vice President of University Strategy and Chief of Staff on Bleed Purple, the podcast telling the story of Tarleton State University through the stories of the people who bleed purple. I'm your host, Drew Myers. Thank you so much for listening. Bleed purple. See ya.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Doug McLemore is the founder of McLemore Financial Group and a proud Tarleton graduate and supporter. The company specializes in providing personalized financial planning and investment strategies tailored just for you. Whether you're saving for retirement, planning for your child's education, or seeking to grow your wealth, their experienced advisors are here to guide you every step of the way. You can find them at 1529 West Lingleville Road in Stephenville, or on the web at McLemoreGroup.com, or give them a call at 254-968-1020 to schedule your free consultation. McLemore Financial Group is your partner in financial success. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through McLemore Financial Group, a DBA of Advisor Resource Council, a registered investment advisor. McLemore Financial Group and Advisor Resource Council are separate entities from LPL Financial.